the actions to reduce the vulnerability and actions to reduce the exposure and limits the adaptations. And as you see here, each of this has a strong, the backbone of this and like in our national disaster management plan in DMP, all of you, like, especially, ATPC, NIDM, NDMA, like and all of us work in the context of this NDMP, like when we are being guided by our Prime Minister's, 10-point agenda for the disaster risk reduction. So now, like, what we look it into that we generally talk about the resilience in the context of the climate change and the the disaster management, disaster risk reductions. But there isn't, the globally, the thinking had started to look it into that the sustainable resilience for the communities, where we look it into in the integral way, the natural capital, the human capital, economic capital, and where the measuring of that in terms of the stocks, like, now we are talking about, like, instead of the GDP, we're talking of GEP, global, like the gross domestic products to gross environmental product, like, risk, flows, and the resilience. So the resilience for unknown shocks, access to basic needs, so that the basic capability of the community can be enhanced. Currently, we're focusing more against the disaster, but we think, like, our hypothesis here is that uh, it should be looked into the totality. So in the world, this thinking has come in the globally from 2006, and there are a lot of challenges in terms of the measurement of the community resilience in the totality. The challenges are what should be measured and how it should be measured. So there are like one group of the people, like as we see here, they talk that the indicators should be classified as according to the survival, the well-being, and preparedness, and the other group thinks that it should be more holistic. Like there should be the community perception, there should be social, cultural, economic, environmental, and the institutional. So so now in this the situations, Department of Science and Technology, like since we are the mandated to do the systemic research and to bring that into the context strengthening of the governance processes, we thought that especially after the COVID, like the resilience in totality for the the community become important, because COVID is not only a health system disruption, but it in the like as Khilji was talking about, like it is also a socio-economic disruptions, and the SARTHI is also like you're targeting towards. Generally, the resilience we talk about, as I've told, in the context of the sustainable development and Paris Climate Agreement, all are focusing on the resilience. But the concept of the resilience, like this is the time like the community resilience as an integrated point we are trying to the goal is to build a science, technology, and innovation-based resilience against various uncertainty at the community level for developing equitable, sustainable, and the resilient society. So it is not only the the disaster, like where we look it into the disaster, the climate change at the community level as an external factor, but many of these internal livelihood the system factors needs to be integrated. So the objective is to strengthen and supplement the various initiatives, capacity building of the STI solutions at the community level, and strengthening the science, technology, innovation-based socio-economic and ecological resilience. So the hypothesis, as I told, that we do the system level, the hypothesis is that if the livelihood system, like which consists of these 5 capitals, IRCTC, the model, like if we, the whether the resilience we bring and whether that becomes that brings, the sustainability in between the social, ecological, economic, as well as the physical and the community and the ultimately. So thinking that, we thought of starting that the community COVID resilience resource sectors to focus on strengthening the prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and the recovery measures, and should be done at a pre-COVID stage where we do mostly the like we create the awareness, do the health supplementations using the local the material available, manufacturing capacity of the low-cost PP and the sanitizers at the local level, and as here in SARTHI you are thinking of here. We are also doing it in the the cross, the cross collaborations between the non-governmental organizations, the social startups, and the knowledge institutions at the local level. Then at a COVID stage, like supplementing the COVID management, because COVID management is the health system's job, habitat and the environment, like improving that through design technology, and most important at the post-COVID stage, health, nutrition, education, skill development, capacity building, and the livelihood rejuvenations. So this is the we thought about, like, if the CCRRCs, there should be a proposed common minimum requirements and the technological intervention. So I can see here in the pre-COVID state, the creations of the awareness, we a minimum common requirement of like this is there. And then as it goes into specific area wise, there can be some more, the technological interventions. And these are the some candidate technologies we have done. And this definitely, as we proceed, like, this can be expanded. Similarly, from the immunity boostings, like these are all available through our like the available through the projects and the programs supported by the Ministry of the Science and Technology, not only in the Department of Science and Technology, but with the DBT and the Principal Scientific Advisors, the office. So the preparations of the low cost, the sanitizers, and you see here, similarly, at a during the COVID stage, that how you can supplement at a community level with the, mainstream health system, like medical and telemedicine services, capacity building of the Asha Anganwadi workers. The idea here is that there are many, like the research projects we see, and the outputs come, but really they cannot be taken at an outcome level. And here is the opportunity to bring them and ultimately convert them into the resilience building of the community, because that's the ultimate objective of the science and technology for this. Particularly for the habitat and environment, low cost disinfectant technology for improving for the the indoor ventilations, because we have experienced during this COVID period that it needs a ventilations, and most of our in the rural and the peri-urban areas, the retrofitting is needed for the ventilations within the habitat system, technology of the drinking water, and so on. Post-COVID stage, the health and nutrition, the education, the low-cost technology for the online education. As you know, like the education is the mostly affected during over these last 2.5 years. Skill development and the capacity building, the livelihood rejuvenations, like location-specific livelihood interventions, skill mapping of the reverse migrant youths. So these are, like, we are thinking of this in a integrated way how to develop that. So currently, as a part of, as you know, like we are celebrating, India is celebrating 75 years of the independence as the Azadi Amrit Mahotsav. We have, we have a plan to have 75 this type of pilot CCRRCs across the nations. So currently we have this financial year around 35 of them. So another 40 we want to do it. And I request that, when the SARTHI initiatives you are doing, like we can explore that where we can collaborate and can, like this type of, because this, like I'm like in a collaborative mode we can take. So like the resilience, what we are trying to do it to the demonstrations, dissemination, deployment of the appropriate technology, training awareness for the STI capacity building, creations of the sustainable and the alternate livelihood options, and need-based interventions in livelihood systems. So these are, like, it is important, like, resilience. It's you can the resilience you have to measure. So there is the data is an important component. So there are certain parameters and the indicators we have developed, as you see in the health, nutrition, education, habitat, and environment. Are the the indicators we will be using for measuring at the resilience at the community level, what we have developed done, and that is also an immediate level, at a medium to long term level, as you see, access to basic needs, social enterprise development, the information sharing and the learning, resourceful and effective human resource development, livelihood diversification, science technology capacity building, and the skill development and technology absorption capacity in the community. So this is the total, like, the concept of our community resilience resource centers. currently the 30, as I told, the 35 this financial year we're going to start with. I, like the invite that is ATPC and the FICCI initiatives of the SARTHI, if we can really align and can, like do this experiment, probably this, the learning in this in India's 75 years, it's not only will show the way in our coming 25 years of our independence till 2047, probably to the world and especially the low resource, the endowed world, we can give a model. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dutt, for setting the perspective, sharing your vision and thoughts on this important subject. You had several important portfolios at Department of Science and Technology, and your in-depth knowledge in the area is unparalleled. Under the Science for Equity, Empowerment and Development seed division of DST, there is some phenomenal work being done for the holistic development of grassroots communities, building community resilience and help them tide over the challenges that affect livelihood and economic condition of these communities. You very rightly mentioned that resilience is central to achieving the SDGs. There are several interventions required at pre-disaster, during disaster, and post-disaster stage. With reference to COVID, you mentioned about creation of awareness, immunity boosting, preparation of low-cost sanitizers, PPEs. These are some interventions and measures that are required at pre-COVID stage. Similarly, there are measures required at post-COVID stage as well, which were well elaborated by you during your presentation. We'll continue to learn and engage with you, sir, and we will discover more and explore more opportunities of synergizing our efforts in this area. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Akhilji. Since I have a meeting from 2:25, so I will take a leave. But we want to continue this, this dialogue, because
Sure,
in
sir.
order to achieve all the SDGs, the most important is SDG 17, which is talk
Yeah.
about the collaborations.
Yes, 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 yes.
Let us continue this. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, moving ahead in the program, I would like to invite Brigadier Khanna, CEO UNDR Arise India and co-chair FICCI Task Force on UN Arise India for his special address. And before I hand over to him, a short profile of Brigadier Khanna. Brigadier Khanna is internationally renowned disaster management and climate change adaptation expert who is working as CEO UNDR Arise India. He has been advising citizens during numerous webinars on preventive and precautionary measures to be taken while opening the economy during COVID-19. He is lead senior consultant disaster management in FICCI. He is director and working chairman of Integrated Institute of Rural Development, Shimla. He is also the chairperson of faculty and disaster management skilling council and president of India Skill Development Council, all honorary positions. He was also engaged as consultant DM by Ernst & Young for its project International Theme Destination around Ranjit Singh Dam along Pathankot, Dalhousie Road, Punjab. He's a highly decorated soldier who has all along been apolitical and has now decided to get involved in to do his bit for the welfare of common man and middle class. Over to you, Brigadier Khanna.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Brigadier Khanna, your voice is a little feeble. We cannot hear you.
It's okay now? No.
It is a little better now, but still we cannot hear you. Brigadier Khanna, in the meanwhile, what we'll do is
Can you hear me now?
yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, of course, I would like to thank FICCI, ADPC, organizers as well as the supporting organization for this timely launch. The initiative SARTHI, of course, as the name aptly been named, it is for the building of the resilience in the new normal, which is spearheaded by, as I said earlier, by FICCI as well as the ADPC. And it's very timely as also necessity of the time. The change is the rule or the law of nature. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus, of course, had said, change is the only constant in life. A stagnant water, of course, stinks. The water must keep flowing. We have been seeing innovations in all walks of life and sectors since the time immemorial. In the disaster management field, innovations as well as the new technologies are going to play a vital role in the management of future complex as also the multiple hazards. Like the one, of course, we have faced during the COVID times in the last over 2 years. Along with, of course, the pandemic, we have had major cyclones, floods, oil well fires, death due to the lightning, forest fire, urban fires, locust attacks, as also numerous, of course, industrial disasters in more than half of the Indian states. Innovation is the ninth, of course, sustainable development goal of the UN, and it's a very important one too. Our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, during his Independence Day speech to the nation on the 15th of August last year, one of the points, of course, he highlighted was the stress on innovations. And that is for that reason, of course, a quantum amount of money was set aside for the research, both in the basic as also in the applied, in the premier research institutions in India dealing with the disaster risk reduction. As we all know, India has undertaken two major international initiatives, that is that of the solar energy as well as the infrastructure challenges. Both, of course, they've got wide acceptance, not only from the developing and the underdeveloped countries, but also from the UN as also the developed nation. Of course, I've been dealing with the UN. Of course, a number of countries are very keen to join the CDRI. Artificial intelligence, of course, offer great potential and the great risk for the human in the future. While still in its infancy, of course, it is already being employed in some interesting way in the disaster management field. Artificial intelligence, in fact, can be characterized as a machine learning process and computer vision application. These abilities instruct the computer to use huge information-based models to design, depict, and predict. Innovations can make the difference if they are used or applied intelligently to improve the built-in environment. It is said that the necessity is the mother of invention. COVID-19 epidemic has given opportunities to the new technologies to build up or rather boost up the research. Artificial intelligence is extensively being used in the medical field to make the healthcare more accurate and also less costly. During the COVID-19, major focus was on the diagnosis of the patients and the viruses, medical imaging processes, disease tracking, and its procedures. It has also covered alerting, creating awareness, as also the social control through the internet. A number of our own indigenous innovations have taken place in all these fields. During the COVID time, a new technology, besides, of course, the development of the various vaccines, has also been introduced in our own India. And basically to stop the transmission of the virus in an enclosed space, which has helped the business continuity by enabling the functioning of the industries, offices, hospitals, and the education institutions. It can disable the corona family of viruses with 99.9% of efficacy in an enclosed space, as per the various virological, of course, the reports from the accredited labs. It is safe for humans, animals, as also for the environment. It is my prediction that it's likely to be one of the game changer, and India will be leading in this. Under Arise India, also under the aegis of Secretariat of FICCI. We have also organized a webinar on the innovations with the Japan Bosai platform, as well as the CDRI. We have had innovation challenges for the IITs, as also a couple of Japanese universities like the KIO as well as the Japan Indo Lab. And now we are in the stage 3 for a similar activity for the schools to find the innovations for the various SDGs. 20 teams consisting of 5 students each from government as also private schools. They are forming the team all over India. These schools are from all over India. And the result, of course, will be out by 15th of March. It is being organized by the college as also the SSG Chopal along with the Arise India. In the end, of course, I would like to recommend that the FICCI as well as the ADPC should have the annual competition for innovations in the various fields of disaster management, which can be initially pan-India, and later, of course, it can be expanded to the SAARC, ASEAN, as also the South Pacific countries. Arise India would be glad to be a partner in this and also get the UNDR also involved in it. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Brigadier Khanna, for sharing your thoughts on this important subject. It is indeed important to address regional and global challenges with a collaborative effort. We look forward to seeking your guidance and support in taking this initiative ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, moving ahead, I would like to request Mr. Nirankar Saxena, Deputy Secretary General FICCI, for his address. Mr. Nirankar Saxena is Deputy Secretary General at FICCI, heads several portfolios including the Disaster Management, Startup and Innovation, AT and UNTR Carne, Science and Technology Commercialization, IT and Telecom at FICCI. His responsibilities include networking with leading senior government officials, industrialists, and the diplomatic corps in India, as well as the visiting foreign dignitaries. He is member of UN Arise Global Board, and in addition to being member of several government committees and councils. Over to you, Mr. Saxena, for your remarks.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for inviting me. This is an important subject in the world on disaster risk reduction. How do we create a business opportunity especially by the startups? And you must understand that this emerging subject in the world, India alone have, as per the World Meteorological Organization report 2020, they accounted for $87 billion loss. How do you create a loss into a business opportunity is the challenge we'll address. I'm very glad if the institutions like FICCI and APCDO has joined together. FICCI under my command had been working on innovation since 2007. Happy to report to you that we have disbursed close to about $30 million grant fund over last 13 years to more than 1,000 companies. And we would be very happy to support. We have one of the best processes and the system in place for the grand challenges. And we have been working with various governments like US, UK, Rwanda, Russia, etc. On behalf of the United Nations, my colleague Brigadier has already mentioned, my only appeal to all the dignitaries who are on the platform is to educate startups in addressing a business opportunity on disaster risk loss. And I'll give you an example in the current pandemics. I am from the UN platform. We are propagating a new policy in the world called biological attenuator policy. And whichever country will adapt it will have many startups around that. I hope that India should address this need and also implement it. But idea is that how do we capture the disaster loss as an excitement to the startup community to start working on freaks and ideas to come up with sustainable and disruptive solutions in providing the solutions. With these words, my committed support to the entire team, and I'm sure that you have given us a responsibility and accountability, and we will together win with pride and demonstrate to the stakeholders that this particular challenge, though you are only awarding the 3 of them, but this will be a pilot for us in demonstrating the impact part. With these words, I'd like to congratulate all the stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Saxena, for sharing your vision on the subject. Being a pioneer in the area of several startup innovation and technology commercialization programs in the country for more than a decade, you definitely bring in that immense experience and vast knowledge. You have been deeply involved with Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, Technology Development Board, Government of India, DRDO, and several other multilateral agencies in nurturing and scaling innovations. We look forward to your continued guidance and under the program for an impactful outcome. Thank you, sir. Moving ahead, ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite Sisira Madura Peruma, Director Preparedness for Response and Recovery Department, Asian Disaster Preparedness Center, for his address. Before I invite Sisira, I like to give a brief background of Sisira. Sisira has 17 years of experience in the domain of disaster risk management and sustainable development, especially in the thematic fields of disaster risk governance, capacity development, emergency preparedness, post-disaster damage and loss assessment, resilient recovery, knowledge management, and overall institutional development. He has proven ability to lead and provide technical assistance and mentoring support to national disaster management offices, sectoral agencies such as ministries of planning, investment, finance, health, agriculture, environment, transport, and urban development, private sector, local NGOs, and the civil society organizations in the Asia Pacific and Africa regions. As the Director of Preparedness and Resilient Recovery Themes of ADPC, Sisira has designed and implemented multi-donor funded DRM programs in Asia, including Sri Lanka, India, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Myanmar, Lao PDR, Pakistan, Nepal, Philippines, and Pacific countries such as PNG, Palau, and African countries such as Ethiopia. He also leads the innovations and the private sector engagement portfolios of ADPC. Sisira is an environment economist by profession and a doctoral research fellow on climate change, Disaster Risk and Development Nexus at the Global Disaster Resilience Center, University of Huddersfield, UK. Over to you, Sisira, for the address.
Well, thank you, Akhil. Good afternoon, everyone from Bangkok, Thailand. First of all, on behalf of senior management team of ADPC, I'd like to congratulate Vicky, Ministry of Science and Technology, and all other stakeholders, including NDMA, NIDM, and all other institutions, those who are part of this process. As a regional institute, we are very glad and pleased to be part of this strengthening and amplifying resilience through innovation, or what we call SARTHI initiative. When we look at the current situations, current era, as well as possibly during last 2 to 3 decades, I feel like innovations and new approaches are required now more than ever before. One end, we are facing unprecedented disasters, and most of them are obviously climate induced. And on the other hand, COVID-19 has been a kind of great learning for us, although there are massive impact all over the world, but we have learned a lot in terms of the value and importance of disaster preparedness. So in that sense, I feel like, having worked in this sector more than 2 decades and having seen the disaster trends as well as, unprecedented disaster events all over the world, especially in the Asia Pacific region, I believe and I feel like innovations and new approaches are really, really needed than possibly 3 to 4 decades ago. And obviously COVID-19 amplified that need and highlighted that need that we all need to work together. As most of the global framework, whether it is Sendai framework for disaster risk reductions, or whether it's Paris Agreement, or whether it's SDGs, all these global framework as well as regional framework as well as national framework highlight the fact that multiple agencies, multi-stakeholder partnerships are required. It is not just one entity's job. It's not just one agency's job. We all need to work together and we need to contribute and attribute for these resilience development processes within the country, beyond the country, within the region, beyond the regions, and globally. So in that sense, as a regional institute, we are very pleased to be part of the process and contribute as much as we could. As you may know, Asian Disaster Preparedness Center is an international organization founded by like-minded countries. Obviously, I wouldn't use that as a startup like 36 years ago, but it was a very small entity founded by 9 founder member countries or like-minded countries in 1986, and our headquarters is based in Bangkok, Thailand. And I'm very glad and pleased that India was and India is one of the founding member country of ADPC. In that sense, it is our moral duty and obligations to work for the initiatives and work on disaster resilience in India. In that sense, even being part of this process is kind of our responsibility and our moral obligation for contributing for the work that India has initiated 36 years ago in establishing ADPC. Well, when it comes to innovations, ADPC consider innovation as one of the priority sector, but also it's one of the priority area as well as one of the cross-cutting area, because we have a number of thematic areas on disaster preparedness, climate resilience, urban resilience, health risk management, risk governance, and so on and so forth. No matter what we do, we need to make sure that innovation is integrated into our thematic work. So that itself shows and demonstrates that we need innovations when you talk about governance. We need innovations when you talk about disaster preparedness. We need innovation when you talk about response. We need innovations when you talk about recovery. We need innovations when we talk about health risk management. You name it, we need innovations. So in that sense, we have given that high prominence within the institutions, and we always work with our partners and our member state in promoting these innovations across our portfolios as well as in our program. SARTHI is just one of our initiative or one of our support areas to FICCI, but apart from that, we have many other initiatives supporting innovations. One of them, I can just name few of them in this forum. For example, Climate Innovations Challenge, or what we call CIC, in partnership with World Bank, which is a $3 million US dollar grant for promoting climate innovations in the region. We have another social innovations grant challenge, which is supported by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is currently being implemented in 6 countries in Asia. And apart from that, we have another innovations for promoting geospatial data and technology for disaster preparedness and response, which is funded by USAID. And obviously, fourth one is SARTHI initiative, which we are contributing to FICCI, as FICCI is did in this process. So I just would like to highlight that, ADPC will continue to be supporting and working with partners in promoting innovations across the region. And when it comes to India, based on my person, obviously I'm from Sri Lanka. I'm not an Indian, look like I'm Indian, but I'm from Sri Lanka, which is your neighboring country. But based on my experience in the working in India, I mean, observing the work in India as well as working in India, I must say that disaster management ecosystem in the region, in entire Asia region, has been evolved and benefited from lessons as well as institutional mechanisms, legislation, and good practices in India. Whether we agree or not, that is the reality. If you look at the disaster management ecosystem in Sri Lanka, if you look at the disaster management ecosystem in Bangladesh, if you look at the disaster management institution in Nepal, we all have learned what India is doing. And we have, I don't use the word copied, but we have adapted what you have done in India. So that is a great achievement. And, all other countries, I just took few examples, but, when I came to this disaster management sector almost 2 decades ago, actually, I look at what is happening in India, what are the existing legislation, what are the existing policies, what are the existing practices, and then we adapted those things in Sri Lanka. So when it comes to innovations, as we have learned the disaster management ecosystem from India, I believe that India has a role and India will be a leading player in promoting innovations beyond India in the region. So this is our expectation, and we always call as India as a big brother, right? So in that sense, I believe when it comes to startup, when it comes to disaster resilience, when it comes to innovations, India's role cannot be undermined. And they will continue to play that role, I believe, and we would be very happy to be part of that process. And obviously promote that in some of our regional, consultation, regional forum, regional dialogues, and so on and so forth. So in that sense, I would consider India as a powerhouse when it comes to innovations, as well as India as a laboratory and hatchery for nurturing innovations. So I think we need to maximize that potentials and work with all the partners, like-minded partners in India, to bring this agenda forward in the region and beyond. So I am very glad that FICCI, Government of India, Department of Science and Technology, National Disaster Management Authority, and all other agencies, those who are part of this process, are part of these SARTHI initiatives and contributing to this initiative. I must also mention that Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations are long-lasting partner in disaster resilience. They are very kind enough to support this initiative. Although it's a small initiative, I believe this is a pilot initiative. And if we could demonstrate some good practices emerging from this initiative, I'm sure Foundation will be further interested to work with FICCI and ADPC taking this forward. With this, I'd like to again congratulate all the partners, especially FICCI and the Government of India, on this establishing SARTHI initiative and establishing this community of practice. And we look forward to this initiative and possibly connect with some of other global events, such as upcoming Global Platform on Disaster Risk Reduction. And I'd like to request all the innovators, those who are going to apply for this call, to be energized. And we look forward to working with you all. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Sasira. First of all, for associating with FICCI in this important initiative. And secondly, sharing your deep insight and vision in the area. We understand that ADPC is working across a broad range of specialist area and develop and implement cross-sectoral projects, programs on the strategic themes of risk governance, urban resilience, climate resilience, health risk management, preparedness for response and resilient recovery. We certainly cherish this opportunity of working together with ADPC and hope to collaborate in more such initiatives and projects. Innovation is definitely the way forward, and international cooperation, regional dialogues and programs and collaborative effort is indeed the need of the hour, and we are certainly committed to it. Thank you once again, Sisira. Moving ahead, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is a mentor and advisor, a senior colleague and a very close associate, Mr. Yogesh Andle, a co-founder, Nucleus Software and Polaris. Yogesh Andle is an entrepreneur and is one of the promoters of Nucleus Software. He was part of the founding team of several leading well-known companies in IT, consultancy and education field. Yogesh Andle graduated from IIT Delhi in 1979. Yogesh was president of IIT Delhi Alumni Association during the year 2006-2007. He has been an active participant in Pan IIT alumni activities. Yogesh was chair exhibition committee for Pan IIT Conclave 2010. Present, Yogesh mentors several IT startups and actively participates in several community activities. Mr. Andle has been deeply involved and majorly contributed in several national, international, multi-stakeholder innovation, tech commercialization, and startup projects. He has immense experience in this area, and we look forward to working with him as always. Over to you, Mr. Andle, for your address.
Thank you, Akhil. Am I audible? Is it clear?
Sir, yes.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, congratulations to FICCI ADPC on launching of this SARTHI initiative, strengthening and amplifying resilience through innovation. Now, my own personal experience in the last 2 years dealing with, during this COVID period with FICCI has been that we organized several calls to identify and support innovations that have been developed in response to COVID, preparedness, risk reduction, basically quick support and things of that kind. And we found that many innovators actually came forward during this period and shared their innovations. This was a period when probably, you see, whenever there's a crisis, the innovators thrive on that because they get an opportunity to do something. They've got a problem, real life problem before them, and they just jump on it. And the number of projects that we saw, whether it was oxygen concentrators, whether it was ventilators, it was disinfection equipment, even things like
whatever business processes different entrepreneurs were engaged in, they started adopting it. How can we use it to fight COVID? And that spirit was very, very heartening. We were so enthused when we got big response to these calls under Millennium Alliance program, and we supported many of them. They ranged from uh, community sensitization, creating awareness, they then uh, quick diagnostics, because suddenly the diagnostic became a big challenge. Then all kind of AI-based image analysis systems, so that the diagnosis of the patients could be done much faster. And the best innovation that we found, one of the very good ones, used social media, the mobile technology, the big data, to do contact tracing. They would say, okay, if this person has been identified with the COVID positive, this thing, using his mobile data, they predicted that where all this person is moved, and where all the contacts possibly could be there, and you could the authorities could then look at those regions and see what kind of a preventive quick response that could be. I'm just sharing a few examples of what was happening during this period, and I'm sure the spirit will continue. Because now since we've experienced this pandemic, definitely the entrepreneurial community is going to keep this as a problem statement before them for a long period of time to identify solutions. My own personal association, my own personal experience with the disasters. I mean, I'm taking you a little far on a slightly tangential path. We were associated with celebration or organization of the biggest congregation of people in India called Kumbh Melas in Ujjain, and that was 2004. For 2 years, we worked with the organizing team, and that's when we realized that the preparedness for any kind of disaster starts with planning of that activity on a mega scale. So when we are planning let me give you the magnitude of a Kumbh Mela. I mean, on peak days, you could have 4 to 5 million people, up to 10 million people congregating in that city to take holy bath in the holy rivers. Now, when so many people congregate together, you can expect all kind of issues, problems. You have crowd management issues, you have public health issues, you have emergencies, utilities, whatever you can name it. And for the first time, we used digital technologies to plan out the whole event. And suddenly we realized that all these digital technologies that we've been developing for commercial world and for scientific world, they could actually be used in community situations, community activities. 2003, I was in Nasik, and suddenly we noticed a stampede happened, and many people were just trampled to death. Now, this is a disaster of a different kind. Preventable? Yes. So how do we prevent it? So what are the elements, features of which, what elements contributed to happening of the disaster? We studied them, identified them, built them into a model, gave it to the Ujjain Municipal Corporation, the authorities that were organizing the event, and built a digital model that if this kind of situation happens, there is a likelihood, there's a possibility of a disaster happening there. Now that started giving us a lot of idea of how we can use digital technologies, the new technologies for disaster uh, identification, preparing for disasters. And today I'm very happy to report that we see in our innovative innovation startup network, we have startups which are working with hundreds of drones. They did a display of drone swarm during the Republic Day event, and this is an IIT Delhi startup. We are closely associated with them, and they could demonstrate that the drones can be effectively used. And we see so many innovators using drones to go out to map territory, to map villages, to map forests, to map natural resources, to map transmission lines, and so on and so forth. Now, the same technology is available. And I'm sure if we launch this initiative, many of them would like to come and remodel their existing technologies to support in identification of disasters. Once a disaster happens, quick survey of the disaster area. Now, in addition to this, so in India, I have not seen it, but I have heard about it, that even the satellites, the groups, the technology is being developed so that you can do a satellite-based observation of a large region and continuously monitor it. And we have been seeing and monitoring. This is a man-made disaster, the burning of the agriculture residue, because it creates impact, the environmental impact. Now, this is being identified. It's very difficult to identify them on land, inventorize them, but from space, we are able to observe where all these things happening, and probably we start taking corrective actions. Now, why I'm bringing this up? That in today's environment, new technologies are coming up continuously. We are developing, innovators are developing new technologies. We need to help them orient or focus towards disaster management, disaster preparation for disaster, identification of disaster, risk reduction, and things of that kind. And here, a focused efforts, or what we can say hackathons, or specific calls. We have like the call we did in FICCI for COVID related innovations and responses. These would be very, very helpful. And I'm sure the entrepreneurial and startup community in India, and not only in India, in the entire region, will find an avenue to express or to showcase their innovations, strengths, and very noble solutions to address many of the problems that we are facing today. Suddenly, the COVID came in, and the speed at which the vaccines got developed. So many of these startups, like Covaxin, Bharat Biotech, is innovation. Is an innovator, a startup in India which started with developing vaccines for polio. Because they had the technologies, they had the wherewithal, very quickly they were able to adopt it for the emerging COVID issues, problems, and they came out with a effective vaccine, all by using their own resources. And then diagnostics, there have been a number of diagnostics tests that have been developed here, which have reduced the cost, which have increased the turnaround time, improved the specificity and sensitivity of the test, and reducing the error chances. So this we need to capture capture the imagination of innovators at this point of time, guide them to apply these towards the disasters and things of that kind. We also need to sensitize businesses here, because one disaster which we experienced during our own business career, was there were a few bomb blasts in buildings in New Delhi and in Mumbai. And the buildings had the data center of several banks located in them, and suddenly the entire building got shut down for next 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 days, till the time the cleanliness, the building is brought back into the operation. And these banks, we shifted them overnight to their backup sites. Now, this is also disaster resilience for businesses. So businesses have to understand, businesses have to learn that the way they have to respond to the disaster, whether it's a disaster of the kind that I just mentioned, or disaster of the kind that we have experienced during COVID, when suddenly a lot of disruption took place. So how do you respond to that? At the community level, we have seen the whole lot of new practices and new innovations came up. The spread of telemedicine during COVID-19 has been phenomenal. Personally, I have been associated with a project where we launched telemedicine services, and suddenly we realized that both in rural as well as urban area, there was a big demand, because the doctors were not available physically. They were so overwhelmed with the rush of patients. So telemedicine came to our rescue, and many of the startups, many initiatives which in the telemedicine field suddenly found that they had to speedily scale up their offering, their capacity, their data centers, and they reach out, the training and hand-holding of field staff, volunteers. Suddenly, the whole focus on how do you respond to the disasters on a large scale has caught attention. Social media is being used today very effectively. We have seen this, the use of social media in managing, in responding to the disaster that happened in Chennai 2 years ago when Chennai floods happened, and that shut down the virtually the complete city, isolating so many people, marooning so many people. Social media came to our help to organize relief and distribute the material, identify well-being of different people. So today's technologies of social media, digital innovation, space-based or drone-based videos and analysis, then and dissemination of information. So many avenues that have suddenly opened up for us, which can be directed, targeted towards building resilience during the disaster period. And I'm very confident that when we launch such initiatives and launch hackathons and launch targeted calls, we are going to get a very good response. And I'm personally, we are all committed, Fiki and the team with Akhil and Nirankar and everyone, to support them. As Nirankar already shared that during this last several years, Fiki had done several programs on this. Millennium Alliance, where catalytic funding was given to many social sector initiatives. And I'm sure some of them can be utilized towards this purpose also. I think I'll stop here because I would like to hear from many other experts who are present on this panel and learn. Wishing you the very best again and hearty congratulations, Vicky and ADPC for launch of this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Randley, for an insightful address. Being at the core of technology and innovation, you understand the pulse of it and how it can be leveraged to address critical issues and problems. Disaster management is complex and still it continues to evolve. Planning and preparing, understanding and identification of risk, and combining it with our learnings from past and then coupling it with technological interventions can certainly help us devise a robust mechanism and strategy. And you certainly highlighted that in your address, sir. Thank you, sir, for sharing your experience and knowledge on the subject. We will certainly seek your support in making this initiative a real success. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, moving ahead in the program, I would like to invite Professor Sumit Sen, Head of Center of Excellence in Disaster Mitigation and Management, IIT Roorkee. Before I hand over to him, a brief profile of Professor Sumit Sen. Professor Sumit Sen is an associate professor in the Department of Hydrology and also serves as head in the Center for Excellence in Disaster Mitigation and Management at the Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee, India. The research activities involved field and modeling experiments to investigate water movement through various components of the watershed and to understand runoff generation mechanisms at various scale. Has also been conducting research on understanding springs as part of the larger Himalayan hydrology and water security. One of the major achievements is in developing an indigenous rainfall simulator for rainfall runoff studies. An experimental watershed on River Aglar has been instrumented for measuring high frequency data of various hydrological and meteorological parameters. Recently, in the WMO Hydro Hub second innovation call from November 2020 to April 2021, he worked with River Labs UK and University of Birmingham to operationalize LIDAR-based non-contact water level sensors within the Central Water Commission in India. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Professor Sen. Over to you for your address.
Thank you, Mr. Akhil. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. And I really want to thank the FICCI and the organizing committee and ADCP to invite IIT Roorkee to be on this platform. I really want to thank you from my bottom of my heart. And basically coming from IIT Roorkee and listening all of you with a lot of experience in dealing with disaster mitigation and management, I feel I am a learner here. So I will require some help from my slides. So I do not have experience like you all, what you have for 2 decades and 3 decades of disaster management. So I'll, if the Mr. Akhil allow me, I'll just share a few slides from IIT Roorkee.
You can now.
Are my slides visible?
Yes, yes.
It's in full mode, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you. I just want to quickly take you through some of the innovations which we have been doing in IIT Roorkee, as well as from the Center for Excellence in Disaster Mitigation and Management. Just to quickly take you through, as everyone basically has said that yes, innovation is a need of an hour to basically take care of our disasters, which are natural disasters as well as there are a pandemic like COVID-19 scenario what we have. And IIT Roorkee is really have been doing the effort to develop end-to-end quantitative frameworks to develop also the innovative solution to really take care in terms of the disaster and pandemic preparedness. I'll just give you, though we have a lot of innovations which are coming up from IIT Roorkee. I'll just take you through for only 5 or 6 areas where we have really touched very strongly, which will be very useful at an international level, as well as it has really been helpful in the Indian context. So I'll be talking about 4 areas or 5 areas. In terms of the earthquake early warning system, this is the early first of its kind, the earthquake early warning system, where the Center for Excellence Disaster Mitigation Management faculties from there and the Earthquake Engineering Department at IIT Roorkee, Earth Science Department, they developed this earthquake early warning system where we have installed the sensors which are basically working. So 167 earthquake sensors have been installed in earthquake, which basically is connected to the hub at the Earth station at IIT Roorkee, and we are basically developing the we have developed the mobile app which is basically giving the early warning system alarm to the local areas of people. To just give you, and this is one of the launch which has happened in August 2021, and this is one of its kind in the country. Just to give you a one quick snapshot of the app is basically about the 11th September 2021 earthquake, which happened in Chamoli region, which is of the order of 4.7. And when it happened, so basically this type of signals are coming from different sensors to the Earth station and with the app. So these are the lead time the alarms have been given to the local people who have this app. So there is a very strong collaboration and very strong development here where we can really deal with the early warning system in terms of earthquake. So if we talk about earthquake, there is another important area of the early warning system is in terms of the landslide early warning system, and it is again one of the very strong natural disasters which are really happening a lot, which Dr. Sisira also mentioned about the climate induced disasters happening more and more, and we all agree with that. And in this one, what we are developing is the earthquake early warning system for the landslide, which is right now there is a platform from the ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, which have their the experimental territorial early warning system has been developed for rain-triggered landslide. We are basically developing or validating and revising their thresholds and developing a better or a combined or a revised version of the landslide earthquake early warning systems. So idea is to basically improvise it and then implement it. So what I have been showing here, the 2 examples from IIT Roorkee, is the operational type of the solutions which we are dealing and developing, and we are already developed in terms of the natural disasters. If I take you to the second part, which we have again discussed and talked about, is about the COVID new normal and how we have dealt, the IIT Roorkee has dealt with it. So there are various innovations which has happened from IIT Roorkee, different departments, different faculties. So there is one of the area which has been developed is the development of novel antimicrobial coating system for PPE. And what we have is basically it has been tested and it has been really taken up very well during this time. So this is the mask, and then what we have is the non-uncoated the system where you have a mask with a scanning of the system, and then when you expose to the virus, basically how it is still stays there on the mask. But when you have the coating of the coating layer on that, and then it basically that's a silver nanoparticle coating, and then how it has overtaken and destroyed the bacterial cells over the time. That is one innovation which really happened on IIT Roorkee. The another very well taken up at a national level is also one of the low cost innovative indigenous mechanical ventilator we developed at IIT Roorkee by the collaboration by mechanical and industrial engineering department and AIMS Rishikesh, and it has been tested there. So the idea is basically the Prana Vayu is a ventilator which has been developed. It has a very low cost system off the shelf. Parts which are available easily, because during that time the parts were not available. So the idea is to basically develop it a cost effective as well as the local material available, and it has really served a purpose, and it has been tested at the AIMS Rishikesh hospital in terms of all the areas of where the medical or the high sophisticated ventilators are being tested. It has basically achieved all the necessary modes for the advanced mechanical ventilators. It has really been a proud moment when we really launched this Pranavayu from IIT Roorkee, and it has been taken very strongly at IIMS Rishikesh. I'll take not much time, but the another last one which I would like to bring upfront, and which is again not been talked a lot, is the indigenous innovation in the antibiotic resistance. Why we are saying that? One of our faculty from bioscience and bioengineering department, also a faculty at Center for Disaster and Mitigation, Professor Ranjana Patania. Basically, we are saying it is it's a silent pandemic which is happening. Why we are saying that is basically a lot of because of our dietary ways which we are taking through different types of medicines. We are taking more usage of antibiotics, or also the exposure or the introduction of the high antibiotics into our food chain, be it poultry, be it water or agriculture, and then eventually it goes to the water body. It is really causing a lot of deaths, and it is a salient pandemic which is really happening, or it is going to happen a lot of majorly. And that's where our innovation comes into. One of our professor, basically, she is working on that, developing the molecules for antibiotic resistant pathogens, where she has been developing these molecules which can really work together and to develop this molecules which can be introduced and to develop the resistance towards this antibiotics. So with these very few innovations which I just showed you, but there are many other innovations which are happening at IIT Roorkee, which are of almost the operational solutions as well as the new technologies, indigenous technologies, which can be taken up at a national and international level. I'll be happy to basically take you to there's a site called COVID-19 site at IIT Roorkee, where you can see a lot of innovations which are happening. I'll take the last 1 minute to basically introduce our center also. Our Center for Excellence in Disaster Mitigation and Management. Its basically idea is to develop, it started in 2006 at IIT Roorkee, and it has a idea is to basically to develop the new young generation. And that's what I think all the new innovations comes from our new generation. And so we are trying to prepare our new generation, not only in terms of the innovation, but also the mitigation, the preparedness. So we are working on from the PG program from Center for Disaster and Mitigation on all the four aspects of the disaster management. We are working not only with the only core department central, but also like different affiliated departments at earthquake, earth science, hydrology, bioscience, mechanical engineering. We are working very closely to the stakeholders which I will be using those innovations, and be it AIMS Rishikesh, be it the IRS Dehradun, where we can implement those landslide, be it disaster management at Uttarakhand state level, disaster mitigation management. So with this, I'll really want to say thank you to the FICCI to invite us to showcase what all we have been doing here. Thank you very much.
Akhil, with your permission, can I ask Professor Sumit something?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
Professor Sumit, sir, such a delightful, erudite, and a fantastic, overview of what you're doing. And really, this is being done for India, for the cause of India, and really appreciate it, sir, under your overall guidance. I have a request for kind consideration since you are heading the disaster management outfit over there, sir. So from the ADPC side, you're well aware, we run a program called the Peer, sir, which has pioneering courses like MFR, CSSR, and all that. Now, we wanted to somehow institutionalize the courses. These courses, sir, have been revised by the NDRF, by a team led by the NDRF. A technical committee was constituted, and they have revised it, updated it, and they have adopted the new, revised curriculum. We are looking for, accreditation by some esteemed university or IIT to accredit these courses, sir. I'm well aware, sir, you are running disaster management courses. A few Army officers have got bachelor's degrees and master's degrees and also diplomas from the IIT Roorkee, sir. I had visited IIT Roorkee, sir, in 2017 and from the NDMA when I was there, sir. And it was such a pleasure to be there. So I was wondering, in case we could leave this thought with you before we approach the NDMA to consider it, that, in case you would like to grant a diploma or a master's degree to some of the officers who are fully qualified as master trainers in some of these courses. So I just leave this thought with you, sir. And with your permission, if you allow me, I will follow it up later with you, sir, please.
Thank you, Brigadier Singh, sir. I'll be happy to take up this. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Sen, for your extremely insightful address. And for the sake of our audience, I must tell that the Center for Excellence in Disaster Mitigation and Management at IIT Roorkee is the first center of excellence in disaster mitigation and management in India. It was established with the aim of conducting the educational program, cutting-edge research and training on disasters, vulnerability, and mitigation. The creation of national database for the rapid dissemination of information and knowledge is one of its key objectives. IIT has an exceptionally critical role in nation building and being at the forefront of development of new technology and innovations. These institutions are instrumental in creation of comprehensive and a sustainable ecosystem in this area. With help of new age technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, big data analysis, and machine learning. There were some really exciting and useful innovations shared by you during your address, Professor Sen. Professor Sen, we are glad to have you with us today, and we will certainly engage with you to seek your guidance in motivating innovators at IIT Roorkee to apply to this initiative. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker in the program is again a close associate of FICCI, a senior government functionary, a retired IAS officer who has played immensely significant role in the area of disaster risk reduction and mitigation in the country. We are very fortunate to have him with us today. I request Mr. Sinha for his special address, and before I hand over to him, a short introduction of Mr. Anil Sinha. Mr. Anil Sinha, IAS officer, retired, Honorary Chief Editor, No Disasters, Senior Advisor, Sphere India, a mentor and a consultant, formerly founding Vice Chairperson at Bihar State Disaster Management Authority. With 30 years of professional career, Mr. Sinha has gained extensive experience in the field of public administration, management, policy analysis, and programming, national level capacity building efforts for environmental and climate change issues, including disaster risk reduction, institutional and legislative systems for disaster reduction and recovery, together with knowledge management and institutional networking, post-disaster response and recovery planning, training and other development activities, disaster risk management and mitigation with enhancement of sustainable policies in national development, interagency coordination, and early warning system, among others. To his credit, Mr. Sinha has various works of analytical writing on disaster reduction policies, planning, and programming issues. Over to you, Mr. Sinha, for your address.
Okay. Namaste and good afternoon to all of you. Thank you, Akhil, for this generous introduction. I'm very, very happy that, Vicky remembered me and invited me for this occasion. I think this is a wonderful kind of initiative. First of all, I take note of the beautiful name, which is very, very sarthak. In fact, the name SARTHI is very sarthak. उसके अंदर में बहुत meaning है. Because SARTHI, as most of us would know, is one who takes you ahead. Lord Krishna was the SARTHI of Arjun the Great, the warrior in Mahabharata. And you see, when there was an occasion for Duryodhan to choose whether he wanted Lord Krishna or he wanted his army, then Duryodhan chose the army. But then Lord Krishna went to Pandava's side as Sarthi. And that is what really ensured the victory of Pandavas in this whole war of right over wrong and good over evil, etc., etc. So I'm very happy that, Sarthi name, whoever colleagues in FICCI or ADPC, they have innovated. The first innovation is the name itself. I think it is very sarthak. It is really putting the seeds of success in your effort. So congratulations, first of all, this, you see. And I'm sure this Sarthi will not only ensure success of the FICCI and ADPC initiative, but it will also take India, to new directions, to new orbits of innovations and interventions. As our friend Nirankar is very, very, he likes to use the word disruptive. So I suppose these initiatives are going to be really disruptive and disruptive in a very, very constructive manner. You see, I think we have had some very good discussions, so I wouldn't go over those points. But let me just say right in the beginning that I recall that Winston Churchill had once said, "Never waste a crisis." You see, and we say that in our words that every disaster offers you an opportunity to do something better. And Bill Clinton, defined this better to be build back better. You see, he used to say every disaster offers you an opportunity to do better. But then Bill Clinton, who was the UN envoy after the tsunami, which affected almost 20 countries in the Asian region, gave it another dimension, you see, and he talked of build back better. And build back better, I think, in my humble understanding, means never create a new risk, you see, in whatever we do, any sector. The second mantra of Build Back Better is never recreate a risk which existed earlier, which we tend to do. I've seen it. My 40-year experience, right from the district in Bihar to state level to national level and international level, working in Japan in international recovery platform, you see. And the third is building a culture of prevention by being very, very conscious that in our day-to-day life, we always try, every moment we try to reduce the risk, you see. In whatever we are doing, there's always some risk here, there, etc. The risk can be of various kinds. So being so very conscious of it, being so very alert to it that we keep reducing. So I would say from this prism, let me see this whole new initiative which has been taken by ADPC and FICCI. Now talking of ADPC and FICCI, again makes me a bit nostalgic. I have known ADPC since late 1990s. When Dr. Suvit Yodmani, our colleagues Sisera and Gillian will recall, Dr. Suvit Yodmani used to be the executive director, a great friend. Dr. Krase used to be the chairman. And since then, I used to be the joint secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture in charge of this. And I interacted with the whole ADPC team in Bangkok, outside Bangkok, or in India on various occasions, on various projects, numerous times. And it was a great association. But let me again define that it was great learning. I think after just a minute. I think ADPC as an intergovernmental organization in the Asian region has been great in terms of changing the vocabulary of discourse and the narrative on disaster risk reduction in the last 3 decades. And I think I personally had a lot to learn because any of their annual meetings, you see, there would be at least 30 countries, and the discourse which will happen, guided and supported, anchored by the ADPC, their colleagues, was always a great learning exercise. As far as FICCI is concerned, again, my association goes back to late 90s. And I really admire FICCI for being very firm, for anchoring this whole subject of disaster risk reduction firmly. They have never wavered, you see. I think that is what is ensuring that you have come out with one successful program after the other, and you are keeping the flag high, you see. Now, you see, coming back to the last 2-3 years, Cicero mentioned, and it was very kind of him to be very generous with his words as far as Indian initiatives have been concerned in the last 3 decades. Somehow, divine had it that I was somewhere in that kind of a scenario doing something. But I'm very happy that instead of following certain things which were global, India has been now leading. Of late, India has been leading. International Solar Alliance was mentioned, which is a Indian initiative, but accepted and partnered by a large number of countries. Then CDRI, and I'll talk of that a little later also, Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, is again, another very, very important initiative, you see. As far as DST is concerned, let me say, I think Dr. Devpriya Datta, I don't know if he is here, perhaps he had to go. But last 1 year or so, the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, Mussoorie, they conduct a program for DST science and technology officers of various CSIR and DST organizations. And I've had the occasion to address and meet with at least the participant at least 12 programs. It's always a great learning occasion to deal with and to interact with the scientific and technological officers, you see. Now, when we talk of this vocal for local and in the context of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, you see, some of the things which are very key words which I noted from the background note also, which was circulated and which you find in Government of India documents also, is reviving different sectors of economy. Economy has been under distress. Economy has been under beating worldwide, you see, not just India. In fact, amongst that kind of a general devastating kind of a scenario in the last 2 years, where COVID intimidated, with its ferocity, the best and the strongest of governments across the world, I think India has done reasonably well, I would say, and we have made use of this time, you see. So then it talks of technology-driven business models. It talks of improving livelihoods and socio-economic status of most vulnerable. So my focus now, looking at this, goes to the most vulnerable. You see, ultimately, it is the most vulnerable. We do say that disaster affects everyone, but we are also conscious and we know the fact that it is the most vulnerable who are differently impacted, who are most severely impacted, because they don't have the kind of safety nets which most of us, are fortunate to have. So therefore, I think our major focus of what we are doing should be towards addressing the most vulnerable. If we take one example of the pandemic and the way the countries over the world responded to that, India also responded, as I said, reasonably well or very well, that opinion can differ. But we did see the plight of lakhs and lakhs of thousands of migrant workers, because industries got closed and they had no place to live. They had to go back to their own villages and homes and all that because they had to support their families and elders and others also. So I think therefore my focus would be, and I would appeal that the focus in this innovation program, SARTHI, should be as far as the vulnerable sections of the society are concerned. And when we talk of that, I think being inclusive from their point of view, they ought to be a part of the discourse and the narrative. And in ownership, I think the ownership is very, very important. And I will give one example how ownership makes something succeed, If we take the example of eastern coast of India, which is battered by cyclones very frequently. And now, of course, even the western coast of India is also facing cyclone. But look at 99 when the super cyclone came. You see, I was then the joint secretary. And I remember the scenes when half of Odisha, coastal 14 districts along the coast, they had been destroyed. They had been decimated. Villages which existed on map didn't exist on the field, you see. and I had gone with late Mr. George Fernandez, then Defense Minister. We couldn't land on the morning of 30th of October 2099, you see, because winds were still very strong. So we went to Kalai Kunda, then later on we came, and I must have gone on numerous, visits, you see. And if you wanted to, everywhere you could see bodies, in water. If you wanted to lift somebody and picked up the hand, the skin will come and the hand will fall down. See, we didn't have many solutions those days of dealing with these kinds of situations, dealing with these kinds of bodies. We did what we could do best at that point of time. But things like this are also very, very important to see. But then look at 2013 and 11, when Cyclone Philin happened, then Hudud happened, then Fani happened, you see. And then Odisha, one of the poor states, you see, socio-economically and all that, has shown consistently that human lives loss can be reduced to practically zero, you see. It's a great achievement. But what has gone behind that is more than a decade of working and working with the community. Government departments, they work together, that is perfectly fine, but they have been working with the community, which is what made about 1,900 odd cyclone shelters, multi-purpose cyclone shelters along the coast, which are owned by the community, you see. I'm underlining the word owned by the community. They are included, the people who are living on the coastal areas, you see, who are again one of the most vulnerable sections of the society. So I think that is my second message. I thought, this example has been able to demonstrate, that to some extent. Now we have been talking of resilience. I understand resilience as ability to bounce back, bounce back again and again. But bounce back for what, you see? Do you want to bounce back to go back to the pre-disaster situation? No, obviously not. We want to bounce back to move forward, you see. That is the kind of an approach which we have to have. That does the community, do the individuals, do the families, and does the society in general or the state have developed the capacity and the ability to bounce back to move forward, you see. I think that should be the whole philosophy behind resilience, you see. Now, many things were mentioned by Dr. Devpriya Datta in his presentation, beautiful presentation. Health and nutrition, education, habitat, environment, livelihood, capacity building, etc., etc. Where now artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, or drones, which were again mentioned, later on in the how these technological advancements are being used innovatively. You see, they may not have been developed for certain things, but now drones are being used extensively for mapping. You see, of vulnerabilities, for mapping of post-disaster kind of situations, etc., etc. So I think these things are very good, to see and to learn. And let me offer 2, 3 specific areas where I would like the innovators and the youngsters, who are joining this program to focus. One is the early warning system. Dr. Sumit Sen mentioned about early warning system for earthquake. It's starting with early warning of around 14 seconds or so. When I used to be in Japan about 20 years back, then they were talking of 10-second early warning system. Now I have also heard even 30-second, 40-second kind of early warning system, almost near the epicenter, you see. I mean, 40-second early warning you find, you see, from Uttarakhand to Delhi, that I saw in the chart. But I'm talking about 30-second, 40-second, almost near the epicenter itself. I think early warning system, there have been tremendous advancements, and ADPC has played tremendous role in developing amongst various countries in the region, some robust new technologies and early warning system. But I think that is an area in which we need to work, because that has to also address another concern, which is last mile connectivity. Once a woman in a conference asked me, when we were talking about early warning system, that, sir, if I am doing my dharma in my kitchen, and you have to accept that, that is my dharma, I am in my kitchen, does your early warning system reach me? If it reaches her, it is fine. If it doesn't reach, then it is your challenge and you got to. So can innovations, I know there are phones and there are mobiles and all that, but that is still last mile connectivity remains one major area, which we need to address. The other would be, reaching out to children, women, schools, etc., etc. Where in BSDM in Bihar State Disaster Management Authority, we tried to do a lot, and we enlarged the 2 district and 400 school program to 38 districts and 73,000 government schools and 2 crore children, kind of a thing. But then can there be better solutions, you see? You know, other example, I would say, I had taken inspiration from Nepal when I once visited earthquake safety clinic. And then we created our own version. We mulled over it, innovated, improvised. I don't believe in cut and paste, but I do believe in the power of ideas, you see. So I took up the idea from Nepal, and then we finally set up earthquake safety clinic and research center in NIT, which is a Government of India organization, National Institute of Technology, in Patna, by entering in an MOU between BSDM, which totally financed this venture. And there we demonstrated the power of demonstration. We created life-size models of safe structures. I hope Dr. Sumit Sen is hearing. You see, you have been doing wonderful work, and I've been associated. We know each other personally. We created life-size models of concrete structure, a house, and bamboo structure, where people can walk in and then see what makes this structure safe. We demonstrated all those bands, safety bands and J hooks and this and that, etc., etc. That was one model. So can there be another model which is more, which can be reached out to large number of people at a lesser cost and all that, you see? That is. Someone also mentioned about business. People say that business of business is to do business. But then I think there is great business in disaster risk reduction. There is great business in innovations, you see. And I would like to invite, all those through FICCI platform, which is a very strong, one of the most prominent platforms that India has in the corporate sector, to invite all the players as your members to come and work, with the DRR community. The road accident is another area. If we take the statistics, number of people killed every year, the road accidents are much more than all other disasters combined. And yet we have not been able to tackle it, you see. So I think that is another area in which our youngsters need to work to save precious lives and save a lot of people who get injured and they lose their jobs, their productivity goes down, etc., etc. All these things, you see. Lastly, let me just say, as a part of societal effort, or you can call it a little bit of innovation, as I said, we have been most concerned with the disconnect which exists between big programs, big ticket programs which are happening at international level and national level. But the person out there, the person who is selling, daily your milk and bread and sabji, vegetables, etc., and the migrant labor and people of those kind. And your paper also emphasizes as MSME, where all these people come. So we want to reach out to them. And with that effort, you see, now we have a small group, we have come out with this innovation, or whatever you call it. No Disasters magazine, you see. It's not a journal. We don't claim that we have the ability and the expertise to bring out journals which are professional, which Dr. Sumit Sen and IIT Roorkee and those institutions can do. But our very small group is bringing out this magazine. It is partly also in Hindi, and we really want to take it to, demystify and simplify all this concept of disaster management, because amongst us, we can talk of vulnerabilities, risk, hazard, and this equation, that equation, etc. But what is it? How do we communicate with the person out there? I think that is one major concern which we have. And the idea is to, really reach out to them. So every 2 months we are coming out. We'll be very happy, if others can join this. And I suppose there has to be hundreds of such initiatives in the country, you see. because one such initiative cannot really reach all over the country with so many languages and dialects and all that. So with these words, let me wish once again success, to ADPC and FICCI in this wonderful venture. Congratulations once again. And thank you, Akhil. And thanks to everyone who are participating in this initiative. Namaskar. Thank you so much.
Sinha Saab, for words of wisdom and throwing light on the challenging scenario and the need to actually lay down a comprehensive roadmap by using the opportunity that any crisis presents, keeping in mind the long-term impact and outcome. We certainly agree to revive the economy. A continuous and a sincere effort in this direction is required, and we at FICCI are committed to it. Ownership, as you rightly mentioned in your address, is the path to empowerment, the power to ask questions, develop ideas, get feedback and suggestions on the efforts. Being at the core of disaster risk reduction and mitigation, and having the experience of handling major disasters like Odisha super cyclone in 1999, Bhuj earthquake in 2001 in Gujarat, and several other such disasters, you have been instrumental in taking up policy level issues in the area of climate change and environmental safety, and we certainly look up to you for your guidance going ahead. Further, you definitely advocated the use of innovative approaches, solution, technological interventions like early warning systems, and its deployment thereof to the last mile, which is also an important area that needs to be looked into. And we are sure this initiative is a small step in that direction. You also highlighted the need for devising women-centric and children-centric programs, which is again an area where a lot of work is required. We once again thank you, sir, for being with us today and look forward to engaging with you. Thank you, sir. We will certainly keep in touch with you and seek your blessings and guidance. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. God bless.
Moving forward, may I now request our next speaker, a senior pro in the area of disaster risk reduction and mitigation, Professor Chandan Ghosh, Head of Resilient Infrastructure Division, for a special address. Before I hand over to him, may I request my colleague, Manak, to read out a short profile of Professor Ghosh.
I'm audible. Let me introduce Dr. Chandan Ghosh. He actually needs no introduction because he's all over the place in disaster management. But still, for the sake of this conference, let me introduce him. He is a professor and head, Resilient Infrastructure Division, National Institute of Disaster Management, Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. Professor Chandan Ghosh currently works at the Ministry of Home Affairs, NIDM, as professor and head of Resilient Infrastructure Division since July 2006. Professor Ghosh does research, training, capacity building for engineers, architects, planners in disaster resilience construction, geosynthetics application, disaster mitigation management, retrofitting, rapid visual screening, disaster documentation, bioengineering solutions by vetiver grass. That's he's another thing what he is very famous for the use of vetiver grass. So he did his PhD from IIT Kanpur 1992 and second PhD from Ibaraki University, Japan 2004. His current project is revising DM plan for CPWD establishments. Over to you, Dr. Ghosh, for your address, please.
Thank you, Manakji, and also Akhilji. Yes, with Anil Sinha Saab and VK Sharma Saab, you have. Can I share just one quick slide? I have the share. Okay.
Sure.
Okay, just, yeah.
Dr. Ghosh, now you can.
Okay. Okay. Is it okay? Slide is visible?
Not really. We cannot see your screen right now, Professor Ghosh.
Okay. Okay. Now I can. Okay.
Yes,
now
we
it
can.
is visible?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. Very quickly, because time is very short. The innovation perspective for disaster risk reduction. Of course, the initiative taken by ADPC and SARTHI under the SARTHI project by India government and with FICCI. I would likely to show that this scenario that last year on February 7th in NTPC that dam construction site at Tapoban area, which one of the worker got survived by the rescuers at right time. And you can see that what a hilarious moment for the life that one could. But thing is that when these things happen, more than 1 hour, 22 kilometers, it has traveled all these debris and everything. We didn't have any warning system. So one of the area is to develop and make the warning system in place. And I'll show that what are the development that available in the country and abroad, so that we can customize it for the NTPC and similar other dam projects everywhere. Second thing is we have been using mask like this one. But transparent mask has not yet innovated in our country's manufacturing industry. But while such things are available at rupee, less than 1 rupee per piece, while going for N95 mask, see, so many layers are required, so many specifications are there. There are more than 50 plus specification code, guideline, and everything is there. So while going for innovation, we have to see that we take it, this is the surgical one, but how much it is able to protect. While going for aesthetic sense, we have made a lot of cotton and many other things, but going into the real specification, which have been devised for several decades, has not yet taken place. So innovation should go in this direction, that how many layers are put up, what are the specifications being followed in order to make 95 masks or even 99 masks or 100 masks. So it is to be looked into. By looking into the analog things, that this is very much known in earthquake. When earthquake happens, that which is the dragon ball coming down, 932 AD. But we know the mechanics and science behind that. So what is required in the innovation is to take this aspect of physics, have brought into broadband now. So we are able to now detect earthquake after it happens in less than 2 seconds in Japan or many other countries. So while we have shifted from this aspect of analog things to such kind of digital things, catching earthquake after it occurs, because prediction is not possible, we are still going or lagging behind, and it takes minutes. So by 1 minute, it has moved already 300 kilometers. So that aspect have to be brought into our things. What is the use of giving warning for 30, 40 seconds if it is coming from 200 kilometers north of Delhi? Then in 200 kilometers away, when earthquake is there, 7+ earthquake will be coming. If we get even 1 minute of warning, which is possible, because in the first 3 to 4 seconds, it is possible for the last 20 years to decide the magnitude and location of the earthquake. Then another few microseconds are required to disseminate them, and also checking the moving things like train. This train was stopped in 2004, October, 23rd October in 2004 by applying automatic brake system in Japan. So then what public expects from our innovation for our science and technology, IIT Roorkee has started 3-4 years back, but it has not come to the public. What public wants, that what is that background system which are yet to make nationally for our 60% area of the seismic zone. And also public expect that we are having such kind of mobile phone and having GPS and everything. So it has to reach us irrespective of whether we are registering or not. It has to reach to the spot where at the spot number 3, if anyone is there, 1,000 people, lakh of people are there within this boundary, that it will take 28 seconds to reach from this spot to this spot with the intensity and the magnitude. This information has to be customized into our smartest phone that we are using. Moreover, these are the information coming daily, but we do not have much of the contribution yet to update such information for the country in 24/7. And while we are living in Delhi, Delhi actually hazard map is like this, but we take it only this portion in seismic zone 4. So modification in the code, of course, it is civil engineering experts, they have to do. While it is seismic zone 4, actually after microzonation, it has come into such kind of red spots. So still our building designs and everything, we have not taken into that. Even though a code is under development, but it will take long time yet. Then greening, like eco-restoration, just 1-2 slides I want to say. We can grow green things even on the stone. Even on the stone, the technology is available. And also we can grow the grass wherever we want. This can be thrown through hydroseeding even 100 meters away from the place which is not accessible. And this is what it grows. This is one thing. Second thing is we have got such kind of material here now available, this kind of material. Plenty of material, more than 90% we are selling petroleum byproducts, which are being used as a liner for such kind of solid waste dump facility, which we are not yet making it. So there is a huge scope for using this kind of material. And then keeping them, even changing the entire scenario of our safety tank in our houses by using this kind of membrane as a safety tank substitute, very easily, flexible manner. We can store 10 lakh liter, 20 lakh liter of water on the riverbed using this kind of material only, which are produced plenty. 90% of these we are exporting. We can carry wherever like this, 10 lakh liter can be stored here on the riverbed. So we don't have to draw water or convert water of the sea water into the sweet water. If we stop even 5% of the rainwater, which is meeting 85% are meeting the sea, we can stop. If we are able to hold up using such kind of flexible membrane on the riverbed or open ground like this, we will be able to meet up all our drinking water requirement in the dry season. And this is the way that Manrega worker can be used. These are very cheap, very, very effective. When our front drains are looking like this, and when our pond or tank or water body are like these, there are natural system that like 4th June 2020, this is the condition of the water near my office, just only 6 kilometers away. This is the completely dead water body, which has been changed to live within less than 15 days. Rather, it is done within a month. That this is the kind of water that has been changed into life. And in fact, just 3 days back, when I have visited 3 days back, the same pond, Jhilwala Park, that this is the condition of the things. And cost less than $4,000 as per the project given to an organization based in India. So if we want to make an eco-restoration, really cleaning of water, which is an interface between air and soil, is very much required, which is done indigenously, naturally, everywhere. But we have to emphasize on this. Number of projects are going on. When we want to talk about the hills, we know the theory behind this in our civil engineering or mechanics. But how grass can make a hill standing 70 degrees, we do not have any theory, but it is natural. So this is the things that I have visited myself in the Kurg area in 2019 May, and you can see that nothing can save this building from falling. Vetiver grass has taken, and by 6 months of time, by May 2020, this is the condition. This is what nature-based solutions making perfected in the country, which we have to promote. While we are cutting the hill, making many projects, we are cutting in this manner, whereas inclined pipe can help restore our slope to a greater extent, more than 80%. So early warning systems are also there, and we take the things, but we are still not in the weather mapping. In our area, locality, we must be able to tell that in my area, how many millimeters rainfalls are happening. And to take it further, if it is raining half an hour in my area, what will be the inundation, whether it is how many centimeters, which portion, which we have not yet translated. So there are almost thousands of IoT devices are available to get, and then to check these things online. Even some of the district, like in Himachal Pradesh, district collector, he has been the witness to using early warning system under IIT Mandi, that to take measures about the things. So I would like to say that we are using this thing for the last 10-15 years, but what kind of conversion, modification, change, innovations using the grass which is known, whatever grass, in our own country, it is a Tamil Nadu, that this is the kind of change that we have to bring in if we when we are looking into the SARTHI direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I think your talk is always inspiring and gives special importance to the use of, biological methods for any environmental problems. I think that's quite wonderful, because the use of vetiver grass and the use of other methods which you have shown is really magnificent. I mean, the type of innovations that can lead to any kind of solutions to any environmental natural disasters. And you also spoke about initially about the mask, and that today's mask and the masks which are actually required. So that's quite a innovative thing which you have really highlighted here. So it's wonderful hearing Dr. Ghosh always, and thank you so much, sir. Now over to Akhilji for the next presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Manak. Ladies and gentlemen, moving ahead in the program, I would now like to request and invite Professor Vinod Sharma, Vice Chairman, Sikkim State Disaster Management Authority and Senior Professor, Indian Institute of Public Administration, for the inaugural address. And before I hand over to him, a brief profile of Professor Sharma. Professor V.K. Sharma, Vice Chairman, Sikkim State Disaster Management Authority and Senior Professor, Indian Institute of Public Administration. He is member of Science, Technology and Innovation Policy of Government of India, STIP 2020 TG Capacity Building. He is currently member of editorial team Resource Book on Disaster Management, LBSN Masuri, member advisory board of Journal Disaster Response and Management, ISSN LBSN Masuri, member editorial board NIU International Journal of Human Rights, member editorial board Journal of Plant Development Science, published by National Academy of Agriculture Science. He has published several research papers and journals in the area of climate change, water management, smart governance, use of scientific knowledge in public participation in disaster management. Professor Sharma has been recently conferred with Subhash Chandra Bose Aapda Prabandhan Puraskar 2019-2022 on Netaji's birth anniversary by the Honorable Prime Minister of India. He has been felicitated for his excellent work in disaster management. Over to you, Professor Sharma, for the inaugural address.
Thank you very much, Akhil Gupta ji. Respectable, most honorable, guests who are here in this occasion. General Bharadwaj sir, Shri Anil Sinha ji, Professor Chandan Ghosh, Professor Sen, my colleagues from ADPC, Mr. Sisira, Madhurappa, Mr. Killian, and all dignitaries, Brigadier Khanna Sahab, and FICCI team, including my friend Akhil Gupta, Manak, Mr. Sharma, and all these who are involved, in this program. First of all, I will congratulate, FICCI and ADPC, for this wonderful initiative. I think, as Sinaji was mentioning, that we are associated with the ADPC since long time. In fact, Government of India was one of the, first country who set up, this important institution. And when I created National Center for Disaster Management in IIPA, ADPC was our partner in conceptualizing, the whole thing. And they helped me in organizing a workshop, which was sponsored by Ministry of Agriculture long back in 1993. So since then, I remember Terry Jegal and all colleagues of ADPC. And Sinhaji very rightly said that this organization is playing very important role in Asian countries, not only in Asia, but in other countries as well. FICCI is one organization I remember that they are always, much ahead than other organizations, and they are the one who brought private sector into disaster risk reduction. And their CIDM, this program is now, I should say, known in every part of the country. They have conducted it already, in more than 10 states. And General Bharadwaj and his team, I think they have taken it, on war footings. They are going, to other countries also. They were planning to have it in Dubai, but unfortunately, because of the COVID, they couldn't do it. But I think the team is doing wonderful job, and particularly this initiative. Nirankar Saxena is a very learned person. He is very experienced, and he always think new. So ADPC and FICCI, this program, SARTHI, which Sinhaji has very rightly said that the name itself will be a success, of this program, and this will give directions. As many of my colleagues give very good, ideas in different presentations. I know IITs and NITs, they are into it. They are technical organization. But my friend Chandan Ghosh, he gave example that even nature, the innovation is possible anywhere. I also remember that in Sikkim, after the earthquake, we started a very small cell in Sikkim government, and we started working on Accra type of houses. And then one of the architect, he provided us a solution that, sir, our major problem is, insulation. So in case we are having 2 layers of bamboo and we covered it with cement, from both sides, you will see this insulation will be much more than the brick wall. And you believe me that this was a very new initiative, and this was used by Seeds India in constructing a school in Sikkim. That was 2012. Now we again did little more work, but so what I am saying is that innovation is required in different areas. The ideas which are given by very learned people, learned professors here, Yogesh ji gave very good examples of IT, this artificial intelligence, even the robotics, etc. Each and everything can be utilized in this. And sky is the limit in innovation. I will again say that whenever there is disaster, it will give us lots of opportunities. And this opportunity in climate change also, you have seen that India has produced more than 50 unicorn. And there are many innovations which has happened. And I will not repeat it. People have already explained that start with the vaccine up to the ventilator and so on. I think this is our engineers and innovators who could do it. But I think the area which is selected by ADPC and FICCI, this is very, very good. They have kept it open, and this is not only for engineers, this is not only for a startup, this is for all. And they are giving, I think, opportunity to these startups and new companies, to think in this direction, that how they can play important role in risk reduction. I will just say, because there is a time limit and they want to finish it by 4 o'clock, I will say that this initiative will take FICCI into another level. Brigadier Khanna told you about the program Arise, which is again a great success. But I will say, and I congratulate, on behalf of all the, dignitaries who are sitting here, I congratulate FICCI and ADPC and all stakeholders, on this occasion and declare this initiative open. I hereby take this opportunity to request all innovators, as mentioned by Sinhaji, that this is a great opportunity, for new innovators, startups to come forward and showcase, whatever they are making, whatever the innovations they are doing, and whatever solutions, they are giving in DRR. I once again, compliment, the whole team, especially the team of FICCI and team of ADPC, for this wonderful initiative. And I thank you very much, that you gave me the opportunity to open, this initiative. Thank you very much once again from my side. Over to you. Over to you, Akhil.
Thank you, Professor Saab, for your words of encouragement. We shall continue to work under your guidance and leadership. Your passion and knowledge on the subject are inspirational. Thank you for motivating us, supporting us, and being present with us today for this launch. And thank you for launching this initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, we request you to apply online in this initiative. The details are there on the screen. We will also send across all the required details via email to all of you. We look forward to receiving and identifying innovative solutions and further supporting them via various measures and interventions. With this word, now I would request my colleague Menak to invite our next speaker.
Thank you, Akhilji. Now we come to the concluding remarks. For that, I would request our co-chairman of FICCI Committee on Disaster Management, Mr. Rituraj Mehta, to kindly give his concluding remarks. Before that, let me give a brief of Mr. Rituraj Mehta. He is the corporate head of safety and business excellence initiatives of Adani Power Limited, Adani Transmission Limited, and Adani Electricity Mumbai Limited. He has also co-authored a book titled Lean Safety Circle. He is also the lead management representative from Adani Power Limited, Adani Transmission Limited, and also Adani Infrastructure Management Services Limited. So he's a very senior corporate professional in the field of safety and business excellence with 26 years of experience and has exposure in major industrial business sectors like automobile, chemicals, textiles, cement, energy, and financial services. He has worked with very renowned business brands in India like Aditya Birla Chemicals, Grasim, Ultratech Cement, and Adani Power. Having started his career as a process engineer, he has wide experience of various functions such as safety, process, production, change management, safety, and business excellence. During his tenure, he has led many safety cultural turnouts in various businesses, which includes Project Chetna, OHSMS, Safety Excellence Journey, etc. He is a postgraduate in Industrial Production Management from BITS Pilani and a graduate in Chemical Engineering from NIT Raipur. He has also done a postgraduate diploma in Industrial Safety Management along with IOSH and NIBOS. So over to you, Mr. Rituraj, for your concluding remarks and vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Menakji. Good evening, all. And thanks, Menakji, for your kind introduction, kind words. Am I audible? Okay, so first of all, let me congratulate the FICCI and ADPC for this wonderful initiative and having a kickoff of or launching of this event, SARTHI. This is really important at this point of time for our country to have multiple forums wherein people can, or our new generation can really think innovatively and share their ideas and thoughts. As we all know that innovation is a systematic process. It covers actually all aspects of ideation, incubation, development, and then implementation and review part. it is very pertinent to note that whether we can create a platform as ideation bank for this particular subject. Sometime it might happen that idea may not be considered as a practical one, but an idea is an idea. You never know that in coming days you will find that that idea is really practical and we can really implement it. So an idea of having an idea bank, probably with respect to this subject, I would suggest if we can have that kind of facility available for our new generation, that would definitely help us. From industry perspective, I feel that most of the ideas, you will find that statistically 30% of those ideas are really implementable, and they requires proper incubation, mentorship, and resources supported by management or organization. So we also need to ensure that whenever an idea is there and it is selected or shortlisted, we are facilitating all the supports required to implement those ideas, and then only it will become an innovation. So that is where the success lies as far as SARTHI launch is concerned. My best wishes to all of you, and congratulate to FICCI and ADPC again, and thanks to all eminent speaker at this forum. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your concluding remarks and vote of thanks. And thanks a lot for your kind time. And over to you, Akhilji, for the rest of the program.
Thank you, Menak. Thank you, Mr. Mehta, for summing it up. You always have been a great support to the team. We indeed appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be once again with us today for this important event. We look forward to continuing working with you in many more such initiatives. Thank you. Thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, we come to the end of today's proceedings. It has been a tremendous day, all of us. There have been really insightful and noteworthy addresses from senior dignitaries from various walks of life, and we are fortunate to have them with us today. On behalf of FICCI, I would once again like to take this opportunity to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all the dignitaries and participants for joining us and contributing in the success of this initiative. The science of DRR in its widest sense includes the natural, environmental, social, economic, health and engineering services and scientific capacities are interpreted broadly to include all relevant resources and skills of a scientific and technical nature. In particular, the social sciences play a central role in the development of new thinking on risk, vulnerability and poverty, as well as the human roles in DRR. With this initiative, we, along with ADPC and other stakeholders, hope to make a small contribution. Further, ladies and gentlemen, we urge you to apply online for the SARTHI initiative. We certainly hope to identify some really exciting and promising innovations and further contributing towards their amplification and scaling up. Before we end up, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank Cicera from ADPC for giving us this opportunity to collaborate, BMGF for supporting this initiative, and colleagues from ADPC, especially Killian, Hope, Brigadier Kuldeep, for working together and tirelessly with FICCI's team, comprising of myself, Manak, Varun, and Deepak. We hope to create an impactful outcome with this initiative and also envisage and hope to work with ADPC and other stakeholders in more such projects. Last but not the least, I would like to thank our participants for joining in. I'm sure each one of you must have been really benefited out of today's discussion and further would definitely go ahead and register yourself in this initiative. With these words, we would like to say a very goodbye for now. Please do care about yourself, stay safe, stay healthy, keep following COVID protocol. Till the time we meet again, see you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Akhil. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.